Bernard Chege, the man who survived a shooting at City Park Parklands that saw his auntie killed last year, today denied allegations that they were having a sexual relationship on the day of the shooting.
I could cry for them to help me. Na wanaangalia tu. Sijui kama they wanted me to bleed out to death.
Janet Wangoi Kirubi, who allegedly died at the hands of police officers, was buried earlier today.
Family and friends gathered in Murang'a County to lay their beloved Janet Wangoi to rest, although questions about her death are still unanswered.
This is a case that will make you question what you truly know about Nairobi and what happens in the city. Janet Kirubi, who was rumored to be having an intimate relationship with her husband's nephew, Bernard Chege, was seated in a car at City Park with the said nephew on a sunny morning on Sunday, 20th May 2018. While they were having a good time, police sprayed bullets on the car, killing Janet and seriously wounding Bernard. Today, we unpack this roller coaster of a case. So buckle up and hold on tight. It's going to be quite a ride. Welcome to Silent Shadows. As always, if you appreciate our true crime storytelling, support our fortnightly series by liking and subscribing. Together we uncover compelling tales of crimes and mysteries in Kenya and beyond, presenting well-balanced narratives that respect the victims and their loved ones. Let's start from the beginning. Janet Wangoi Wayaki came from the wealthy Wayaki Wahinga family based in Kiambu County. She met her husband, George Kirubi Gathima, a popular and wealthy businessman, somewhere between 2002 and 2004. They were brought together by their work in the hotel industry. George was the owner of Nairobi's popular Gloria Hotel, located at the junction of Ronan Gala and Tomboya Street, while Janet worked at the hotel. Despite George being already married, love blossomed between him and Janet. In no time, Janet agreed to become his second wife. Soon after their marriage, George asked Janet to quit her job, and he opened a massive business for her to run on the ground floor of Gloria Hotel. The business, which did quite well, was called Fay Mobile and Accessories, which traded in mobile phones and women's beauty accessories. According to George, it was no secret that he had 2 wives. He even ensured his 2 wives lived close to each other, so that it was easier to spend time with each one of them. Janet and their 3 kids lived in Don Holmes' Harambee Estate, and the first wife lived close by in Greenspan Estate, both in Eastlands, Nairobi. From the outside looking in, they were seemingly a happy polygamous family. The 2 wives knew each other, and their children visited each other often, whilst George managed to split his time equally between both families. However, Janet and George's marriage was far from perfect. It was marred by domestic violence and infidelity. For example, in 2008, just a few years after marrying George, Janet met a man by the name Edward Waithaka Wakava, popularly known as Wawa. Edward is best known for running for the Dagoretti South Member of Parliament seat in 2017 and 2022 against John Kerry, Chege. From Edward's account of events, he met Janet in 2008 and it was love at first sight. He alleged that, at the time, Janet was experiencing domestic issues with her husband to the point where she had been physically assaulted and reported the matter to Buruburu police station. When they met, Edward was 22 years old and Janet was 31. Given the squabbles Janet was having with her husband, Edward claimed to have started helping her navigate the turmoil, and in the process, they fell in love. Their relationship lasted for 1 year, and Edward claims his family knew about Janet and even wanted him to marry her. He also claims even after their relationship ended, they remained friends. Unsurprisingly, even after Janet's relationship with Edward ended, her marriage remained turbulent. This was evidenced by numerous fights she continued to have with her husband. She would often leave their matrimonial home and return to her parents' home after disagreements with her husband George. For example, around 2012, George was arrested and detained at Buruburu police station after a fight with Janet over allegations of infidelity. He was arraigned in court, but Janet later withdrew the case. Also, in 2017, just a year before her death, she reported her husband George to Kamukunji police station for physical assault. During this time in 2017, George was particularly uncomfortable with the relationship between Janet and his nephew, Bernard Gathima Chege. Now you see, Bernard Gathima Chege, who was George's late brother's firstborn son and about 15 years younger than Janet, frequently visited his uncle's home, which he shared with Janet. As time passed, his relationship with his aunt Janet developed into something intimate. In an interview with the Nation newspaper, George revealed that he was aware of Janet's intimate relationship with his nephew. Together with other concerned relatives, they had tried in vain to warn the two against continuing with their affair. Despite these efforts, both Janet and Bernard ignored the warnings and continued having a thing. As expected, Bernard later denied any romantic involvement with his aunt Janet. Yet, their movements in the hours before Janet's death, as you shall see, only heightened suspicion and raised further questions about the true nature of their relationship. On Saturday, 19th May 2018, George left the home he shared with his second wife Janet in Donholm and traveled to Murang'a for a friend's burial. In the evening of the same day, back in Nairobi, Bernard, who lived in Pangani, drove all the way to his uncle's home in Donholm and picked up Janet in his mother's black Toyota Fielder. He alleges that, after picking her up, they went to Pangani Shopping Center, where they parked the car and stayed inside it, chilling and chewing miraa, also known as cut, until the following morning, Sunday, 20th May 2018. Between 6 and 7 a.m. that morning, Bernard claims they left Pangani Shopping Center and traveled to Viewpoint along Nairobi-Naivasha Highway, intending to view the sunrise. When they got to Viewpoint, they were unable to enjoy the sunrise due to the cloudy weather. Making lemonade out of the forbidden lemons, they spent a few minutes taking photos at Viewpoint before deciding to head back to Nairobi. Let us know in the comments below what you think about this relationship. Is it suspicious, or is it just a normal aunt-nephew relationship? As they were driving in Westlands, Nairobi, Janet allegedly changed her mind about going back home and suggested to Bernard that they go to City Park. They arrived at City Park at around 9 a.m. and parked the car near Joseph Murumbi's grave. Surprisingly, it was not unusual for Janet and Bernard to hang out in the car at City Park. Bernard claims that they frequented the park to chill and indulge in chewing cut. Their visits were so regular that some of the guards at City Park knew both Bernard and Janet. On this fateful Sunday morning after parking the car, Bernard claimed Janet moved to the back seat while he remained in the driver's seat. In a cosmic and most karmic twist of events, on the same morning that Bernard and Janet visited City Park, Nairobi security agencies were on high alert due to intelligence reports warning them of potential terrorist attacks in the city. The intelligence that was circulated to all police divisions in Nairobi indicated that terrorist groups, including Al-Shabaab, had urged their followers to target key government institutions, military and security installations, diplomatic missions, and public spaces in the city on that Sunday, 20th May 2018, which happened to be just a few days after the Ramadan celebrations, which were on Wednesday, 16th May 2018. To mitigate this threat, an operation was launched in Nairobi City involving both the Kenya Police and Administration Police. Each police station in Nairobi, including administration police camps, was required to nominate 10 officers per division for the operation. Although 50 officers were nominated, only 45 reported for duty. They assembled at the Nairobi Area Police Headquarters and were then transported to Parklands Police Station for deployment. At Parklands Police Station, the officers were briefed on the operation, how to handle the firearms, and their specific roles. They were also organized into groups of 5 under the command of a police corporal and sent on patrol duties to various locations in the city. One group, assigned to the main City Park area of Westlands, was led by Police Corporal Bramwell Adala from Embakasi Police Station, and he was overseeing 5 police officers, including officers William Kipkorir from Lungalunga AP Post and Godfrey Kipngetich Kirui from Industrial Area Police Station. These 5 officers were patrolling the allocated area when they received information from a Nairobi City County security officer about a suspicious car parked at City Park since 9 a.m. The car, a black Toyota Fielder with tinted windows, had raised concerns as no one had been seen entering or exiting it. The officers, led by Corporal Dalla, got to where the car was parked at around 10:30 a.m. and they approached it cautiously given the terror threat. Corporal Dalla knocked on the vehicle several times with his swagger stick, calling for any occupants to lower the window or open the door. Receiving no response, the corporal even contemplated calling the Parklands police station for a tow truck. All of a sudden, Bernard started the car and sped off, nearly hitting the corporal, who jumped out of the way. The officers shouted for the driver to stop, but to no avail. Shockingly, officers William Kipkorir and Godfrey Kipngetich fired into the air and then at the car, discharging a total of 15 rounds of ammunition. This decision was made independently by the officers without Corporal Dalla's instruction. After the car came to a stop just a short distance away, the officers found Bernard fatally shot and a naked woman, later identified as Janet, lying in the back seat in a compromising position, also fatally shot. The most puzzling question remains: why did Janet and Bernard not open the door and identify themselves as a no threat to the police? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Janet and Bernard were then rushed to Avenue Hospital after the unfortunate incident. Back in Donholm, Janet's husband had just gotten home at around 9 a.m. that Sunday morning. He asserted that after attending his friend's burial in Murang'a the previous day, he had gone out to party with his friends and got back to the home he shared with Janet that Sunday morning. He further claimed when he got to the house, he found Janet was not home and her car was in the parking lot, and he tried to call her, but his calls went unanswered, and the house help told him Janet had left on Saturday evening and had not returned home. At around 11 a.m., he received a call from a friend telling him to rush to Avenue Hospital as his wife had been shot alongside his nephew. Unfortunately, Janet did not make it to hospital alive, and on his way to hospital, George was notified by another friend that his wife Janet was deceased and that her body was being transported to the city mortuary. Perhaps from the anger he felt that his wife had been shot in the company of his nephew, George did not go to see his wife's body at the city mortuary or ensure it was well kept. He just made the turn and returned home to be with their 3 children. However, George would see his wife's body at the city mortuary 2 days later on Tuesday, 22nd May 2018, when an autopsy was conducted on her by government pathologist Johansen Odur. The pathologist established Janet had several bullet wounds, and her vital organs, including her liver, heart, and left lung, had been hit, which ultimately led to her demise. During this time, Bernard was still at Avenue Hospital in Nairobi, where he was receiving treatment. He first spoke publicly to reporters on Tuesday 29th May 2018. In this interview, Bernard noted his life was in danger and that police were harassing him to obtain his DNA to confirm that he was indeed the person at City Park during the shooting. He also gave his version of events, which you can listen to here.
So when I was about to open the windows so I can hear what they're saying, I saw all of them withdraw their guns. So when I started the engine, before I could go even 10 meters, they were shooting all over the place.
In his first TV interview since the fateful Sunday morning, Bernard recounts the morning's events, an account that contradicts that of the police. Chege says he reached out to the same officers who had shot at them and begged them to help stop the bleeding or get them to a hospital, but they did nothing.
When I was shot, I could cry for them to help me. Na wanaangalia tu. Sijui kama they wanted me to bleed out to death ama ni nini.
Chege claims police officers have since the incident been on his tail. For the better part of the day, detectives from the Gigiri police station had camped at the Avenue Hospital, demanding that he gives them his blood sample for DNA tests. He says he now fears for his life.
Sijui anataka DNA. Sijui DNA yangu. To confirm. Ati mimi nilikuwa huko. And I'm like, it is the same police who got me from the car with bullet wounds.
What do you make of Bernard's account of events? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Janet Wangoi Kirubi was laid to rest on Thursday, 31st May 2018 in Radhia Village, Kangema, Murang'a County. Her burial was sadly ridden with a tussle between her family and her husband. For example, her family wanted her to be buried at Langata Cemetery, but George insisted on burying her in a lonely and isolated place in the middle of nowhere, as her siblings asserted. Additionally, remember her former boyfriend Edward? He was part of her procession at the morgue, which did not sit right with her husband. In spite of all this drama surrounding her burial, at her funeral, Janet was eulogized by her family and friends as an astute businesswoman and a loving mother, with her firstborn son, who was only 13 years old at the time, saying, "We do not know what to do, Mom. We never knew we would lose you. Where will we go from here? We still have no clue." The news of the City Park police shooting spread like wildfire when details emerged that Bernard was Janet's husband's nephew, and they were suspected of having an illicit relationship. Speculations arose that George might have had something to do with the shooting, given his close connections with police bosses. George categorically denied any involvement in the shooting through interviews with various media houses. In these interviews, he confirmed that his wife was indeed having an illicit relationship with his nephew, a fact that he and some family members were aware of and had warned both Janet and Bernard about. George was vindicated from the rumors that he was involved in the shooting when the two police officers who fired at the car that Janet and Bernard were in were arrested and arraigned in court on Monday, 11th June 2018. The officers were charged with murder. In the court proceedings that lasted 3 years, George Kirubi took the stand on Tuesday, 5th February 2019. George broke down more than once, recounting the events leading to his second wife's gruesome death. But more surprisingly, he retracted the earlier statements he had made in the media, claiming that his nephew and his wife had an affair. In court, he claimed he did not have any knowledge of an intimate affair between his wife and his nephew Bernard Chege. His testimony in court partly read, "I cannot tell whether my nephew had a close relationship with my wife. I cared for my wife so much. It is the reason why I was looking for her when I couldn't find her in the house and her phone went unanswered. I only became aware that she was with Bernard Chege after the incident. Let us know in the comments below what you think might have made George change his statement. Bernard later took the stand and recounted that upon arriving at City Park and parking next to Joseph Murubi's grave, he dozed off in the driver's seat while Janet slept in the back. They were rudely awakened by someone banging on the car door. He claimed to have seen people and a gun, prompting him to start the engine and drive off. He continued to testify that he only drove a few meters before feeling a sharp pain in his back and realizing he had been shot. He called for help. One of the police officers assisted him into a waiting police car and took him to Avenue Hospital. Bernard further recounted that before leaving the scene, he called Janet, but she did not respond. He allegedly saw one of the officers shaking her, but she remained motionless. When questioned about his relationship with Janet, Bernard insisted they were very close and had a typical aunt-nephew relationship, denying any intimacy. He also denied claims that he was found naked inside the car and that he disobeyed police orders to open the car. The two police officers, William Kipkorir and George Kirubi, expressed remorse in court for taking Janet's life. They regretted their actions, stating that it was not in their intention to injure or kill either Janet or Bernard. They emphasized that, given the terror attack threats at the time, allowing the car to leave the scene was not an option. Following the court proceedings, Judge Stella Mutuku of the Nairobi High Court concluded that the force used by the officers was not proportional to the objective. According to the judge, there was no offense or threat involved, especially after the victims drove off in an attempt to flee. When it came to Bernard's and Janet's relationship, the judge determined that it was not in the court's business to determine the nature of their relationship. The judge then ruled that the offense of manslaughter had been proven beyond the shadow of a doubt against William Kipkorir and Godfrey Kipngetich Kirubi. And on 27th May 2021, the same judge sentenced the two former police officers to 7 years in jail. What do you think? Was the sentence fair? As always, let us know in the comments below. This is a very complex case that highlights issues of domestic violence, infidelity, strained family relations, and excessive use of force by the police. Janet and George's marriage was evidently strained, and perhaps they would have been better apart than together. Although Janet's alleged affair with her husband's nephew is not a crime, well, it's questionable. However, the core issue in this case is the excessive use of force by the police, a problem we have continuously observed in Kenya. It is important to understand that police brutality in Kenya has deep historical roots, tracing back to British colonial rule when the police were used as an instrument to subdue the local population through force. Even after the departure of the British colonialists, the legacy of this oppressive approach has lingered, with Kenyan bodies remaining criminalized in the eyes of the police. This case is a reminder of the urgent need for reform within the police force to ensure that laws are enforced without unnecessary use of violence. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Janet Wangui Kirubi. May her soul continue to rest in eternal peace. Thank you for joining us today. If you appreciated this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be notified when the next video is up. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and always trust your gut.